So what would happen if the Federal Reserve cuts interest rates a little bit more than what is currently expected? This is a question I began asking, especially as the market has its expectation that the Federal Reserve next week, I believe it's going to be Wednesday, September 18th, is set to announce its first rate cut. And it's expected to be about a quarter basis point, so 0.25%. Now, what happens if they actually cut interest rates by half a basis point, 0.5%? So let's go ahead and just jump into it. Again, I do plan to live stream the FOMC meeting where they plan to cut interest rates. If you want to tune on in, all I ever ask you to do is subscribe to the channel and hopefully I earn your thumbs up. Let's go ahead and start breaking this down. So again, a pretty solid day for NVIDIA, up 1.92%. Nothing too significant, but again, still pointing to the sky and trying to make a recovery. With that, taking that into consideration, again, what a bigger than expected Fed rate cut would mean to the stock market. So I thought that Yahoo Finance did a pretty good job kind of breaking this down. So a hotter than expected reading on consumer prices and on wholesale prices over the past few days have led markets to price in a higher likelihood that the Federal Reserve will opt in for a smaller and more conservative interest rate cut in September meeting. I don't think that this should really come at much of a surprise. If you know anything from the Federal Reserve, if you don't know anything from Jerome Powell, they've always been very cautious, which you can agree or disagree, but that's how they've always done things. And I think it makes complete sense. I mean, the stock market was trying to factor in that the Federal Reserve was going to start cutting interest rates possibly early 2024. And look at this, right? We're coming into September and still there's been no rate cut. Maybe next week, again, we're set to see the first one, but I don't think it's going to be much of a surprise that the Federal Reserve wants to kind of ease into it. So a quarter of a interest rate cut would definitely make sense. A bigger reduction, so if they actually end up cutting interest rates by half a basis point or 0.5%, could send stocks reeling. So as of Thursday, investors were placing the probability of the Federal Reserve lowering rates by half a basis point, so that's a 50 basis point cut, in the meeting next week by just 15%, down from 44%. So as of last week, it was an expectation, supposedly, that there was a 44% probability or chance that the Federal Reserve was going to maybe offer a 50 basis point rate cut. So that's pretty high, right? They would expect a pretty significant jump. And the part that I find really amusing about this is that, okay, that was last week and markets were selling off last week, but now all of a sudden markets are picking up, but yet we expect a lower than expected rate cut. Doesn't really make sense when you think about it, but some strategists have said that a 25 basis point cut would be more of a sign from a more welcome sign for the Federal Reserve, which I completely agree. And again, if you know anything about especially the recent tone and how they've wanted to approach these rate cuts, they definitely wanted to make sure that data supported it and that they are not too aggressive too early on. For everyone who's asking for a 50 basis point cut, I think that you should really consider the amount of volatility that would cause in short-term funding markets. This is not something that the Fed wants to risk. And I think that's just very well said, right? If you really understand what the Fed wants, what the Fed understands that this could do, they don't want very volatile markets. So I don't think that it's going to be a very significant surprise that by next week, Wednesday, 1 hour before the market opens, that the Federal Reserve, actually, I don't think it's 1 hour before the market opens. I think it's 2 p.m. Eastern time. So I'll have to double check on that, but we will be live streaming it for free here on the YouTube channel. And again, if you want to tune on in, all you literally have to do is subscribe. As of right now, NASDAQ futures are nearly break even, and we'll see. It's been a very significant week, a huge bounce back for the overall markets. Will they end in the green tomorrow, Friday, September 13th? Again, is it going to be a lucky day or is it going to be a bloodbath? Nonetheless, we will be going live right at market open for our live trading session for about 30 minutes to an hour. It's a great time if you're an absolute beginner to get plugged in. If you guys haven't tuned on into our live session, again, it's the second link in the description down below. And I normally go live at market open every single day, Monday through Friday. I'd love to see you there. And again, when you're ready to tune on in, second link in the description down below. Hope that earned your thumbs up. I'll see you next week for that FOMC meeting. And like always, let's make sure that we end the year on a green note. Take care, team.